how to ensure your success every single time. Stay tuned. Hey, this is Damon Cart from NLP Gym, reporting to you from Hong Kong. And I'm also bringing you cutting-edge neuro-linguistic programming techniques and tools to help you create the life that you desire. So if that sounds good, please click subscribe to this YouTube channel so you can get these videos on a regular basis. So right behind me is the statue of Bruce Lee, one of my heroes. And one of the reasons why he is one of my heroes, among many things, is his achievement of excellence in his lifetime. He was only 32 years old when he died, and just seeing his statue gives me that sense. So he's like a metaphor and a model for me, and a model of excellence. And for a lot of people, they don't really understand how to create excellence. And if they stumble upon it, they're not even sure how they created it. And until the 1970s, the human potential movement and things like NLP came onto the scene, it was just kind of thought that you either were good at something or you just never were going to be good at something. And of course, we learned now that that's not true. So it basically breaks down to three things. In NLP, we really look for patterns. So we're looking for patterns of excellence, patterns that create excellence. And for a lot of people, they focus a little too much on content. Like, what's the story behind it? Like, oh, I became good at something because when I was a little boy or when I was a little girl, I started doing this or that. And that's all fine, and there's something to that. But what NLP does is it looks at patterns and structure. So I can break this down, I can break excellence down into three main patterns or three main structures that you want to be focusing on. Just understanding and being very clear about any one of these three patterns, that alone can get you to what you want and to achieving excellence. But don't leave anything up to chance. Implement all three. And speaking of Bruce Lee, one of the things he used to say is don't punch your target. Don't just aim at the target. Aim inches beyond the target. So instead of punching at someone, you punch through someone. And that's one of the things that a lot of people don't do when it comes to setting goals. They're not looking for the deeper values behind the goals. So if the goal is the target, a lot of people get really focused on the target instead of going beyond the target, beyond the goal. So if your goal is to make more money, buy a car, buy a house, what is it that you're trying to fulfill by getting those material objects or achieving those goals? And it doesn't have to be objects. It could be you want to run a marathon or something like that. So the first thing to do is to focus on what are the patterns of what I would call values that you seek. So the seeking of a value or values is a pattern to understand when you're aiming for excellence. So it's, what is it about excellence? What is excellence going to do for you? So you want to find what that is, that deeper meaning, because that's where motivation lies. When you understand beyond the goal, beyond the target, what it is that you want to fulfill, and you connect with that, you'll never have to worry about motivation. So you won't be thinking about, because I get this all the time. I get questions like, well, I'm just not motivated, or I watch too much TV, or I play too many video games, and if I could just get rid of that, then I could achieve whatever it is that I want. And it's not about getting rid of that. It's about understanding that there is a deeper value that you're trying to fulfill by playing the video games. It probably gives you some short-term fulfillment, but then when you're done, you're like, that didn't work so well for me. So this also brings me now to the second pattern, which is strategy. So what is the strategy? Once you know what the value is, or the values that you're looking to fulfill, what's your strategy for doing that? So if you're not achieving excellence now, it's not because your values aren't in place. The values are there. It's just your strategy to fulfill those values isn't a very good strategy. So you just need to change up the strategy. And you'd like to pursue whatever it is that you define as excellence. But when you come back from work, you're just too tired. And the work that you're doing isn't connected to the excellence that you want to achieve. The work that you're doing is just to pay the bills. And believe me, I've been there. Most of us have, unless you were born into wealth. We all have to pay our bills, and we usually have to work jobs that we don't want to. So how do you get around that? Well, you have to, in your off hours, work on whatever it is that you want to work on. But you come back home a lot of times and you're tired and you don't want to do it. So then you go play video games, then you go watch movies. Understanding what that strategy, and you might be thinking, strategy? That's not a strategy, that's being lazy. Laziness is a strategy. Start thinking in terms of patterns, not content. When you say, oh, that's laziness, then you're giving a meaning to it, and you're calling, and that's what gives it the content that I'm talking about. We want to get out of content. So instead of saying, oh, it's, or having a story about it, well, I worked all day, so I deserve to go watch a movie. And I'm not saying you don't, it's just you have to get out of that mindset of the content, the story behind it, or the meaning behind what it is that you're doing, and go to the strategy. So first one was values, second one is strategy. What is the strategy that you're using to achieve excellence? And look at everything as a strategy. You being lazy is a strategy to fulfill a value. And once you start breaking this down and understanding these patterns, then you can change them more easily. But when you're stuck in the story, when you're stuck in content, really, really difficult to break out of this. So start looking at patterns and structure. So that's just two. The third is resources. Values, strategy, and resources. So what are resources? When I mention this to people, especially when I'm coaching people, they say, resources? What are you talking about, resources? Resources are the internal parts of you that you're not accessing, and if you could access them, then you would be able to achieve whatever it is that you want. So if I know that I want to make more money, and I know my values behind it, say it's security and freedom, and my strategy, I realized my strategy for doing this was just to save money, not to make a bunch more money. And so now I'm realizing I got to change that strategy. So I changed the strategy, but then it's still not happening, or I'm still not doing it, or I'm having trouble implementing the strategy because I keep falling into old patterns of being lazy or watching TV or whatever it is. That's when you need to locate a resource or resources to achieve the excellence. So what are resources? Resources could be things like persistence, determination, creativity, sense of humor, resilience, compassion, charm. Think about it like this. What do you need in order to implement your strategy? What's not there that you're not accessing? Now you might be thinking, oh, it's something like I just need more time, or I need more money, or I need more connections in whatever the field is that I'm doing. Stop thinking externally. Certain things that are external you can't control. What you can control is what's within you. There's a presupposition in NLP that we have all the resources we need to achieve anything. So presuppose that you have the internal resource, because more than likely you do. And so search inwardly and ask yourself, what is it that I need in order to execute this strategy that I'm not accessing right now? What is also helpful is look at the values you're looking to fulfill by achieving excellence. And those are usually good indications of what resources you need. Sometimes the values themselves can be a resource. So values and resources are not the same thing. I don't want to confuse you about that. Values are what you're looking to fulfill. But sometimes the resource is also the value. So let's say you want to fulfill the value of creativity. Well, creativity is also a resource, so maybe you're just not accessing that within you. Maybe the value you're wanting to fulfill is freedom, and you're not accessing freedom within yourself. You're locked into this limited way of thinking or limited way of believing. So the resource you need to access within yourself is, say, free thinking or more creativity, which is what happens when you break out of a limitation. You're able to access more creativity. So just to recap, the three things to focus on are your values, the deeper values beyond the target or the goal or the achievement of excellence. What are you looking to fulfill? It's usually more than one value, really high level value. The second one is strategy. What strategy are you using to not get what you want? What strategy are you using to not achieve excellence? And maybe just try the exact opposite. Try anything different. That's another presupposition in NLP. If something's not working, try something different. Try anything different. So change up the strategy. And when you have a strategy, and if you're not able to implement that strategy, it's probably because you're not accessing an internal resource. So find out what that is, access it, put it back into place. And you might be thinking, well, how do I do that? How do I access it? Remember a time when you were feeling whatever it is that the resource is. So if say it's determination or persistence, remember a time when you were very determined and very persistent, and just by accessing that memory, you will access the resource and the feeling of that, and then you can implement it into your new strategy. So don't leave anything up to chance. Don't just focus on the values or the goal that you're trying to fulfill. Don't just focus on the strategy, and don't just focus on whatever resource is missing. Focus on all three, sharpen all three, and it's also a work in progress. As you make progress, these things might change up a little bit, and it's not so much that they're changing, it's just that you're getting more clear about them. So maybe you implemented a missing resource, and then you start to realize that you need another resource. There's another resource that's missing that you're not accessing. And then maybe as you go deeper, maybe as you start to get what you want, you realize that there's a deeper value, even deeper than what you had found of the values that you've discovered before. So you need to go even deeper with this. And then most importantly, be willing to change up your strategy. A lot of people get caught up on their strategy because they're not clear about their values. So they double down on the strategy, and they never want to change the strategy. The strategy is probably the thing that you're going to end up changing the most, because until you've actually done something, you're really only guessing. So keep changing up the strategy until the strategy works for you. Check out my website, nlp-gym.com. There you will find some free NLP training that you can download right away to your phone, your tablet, or your desktop, as well as some free hypnotic inductions that will help you with confidence and self-esteem. Also follow me on Facebook, NLP Gym on Facebook. There I pretty much post anything that I'm up to in real time. If you like this video, please click like right down here, and also if you haven't already, please click that subscribe button as well and hit the bell to get notifications. Take care.